Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another broadcast of The Weekly with me, Neff. Please subscribe to the channel. Share this video with a couple family members, friends, and colleagues. I definitely appreciate the support. And this is going to be quite an eye-opening one. I've been talking about Weapons a little bit, just a little bit. Did my review, talked about the box office, which it had a decent box office this weekend. Interested to see what it does on the second weekend. I've been talking to a couple colleagues about some things because I noticed some things and I referenced them in my review. So I think it's pretty obvious at this point in time if you know what to look for. In my opinion, Weapons is a Freemasonic propaganda piece film, and so it's something that doesn't really appeal to me. Too many signs there, too many symbols, a lot of imagery, a lot of coding of things, a lot of weird explanations for why certain things are a certain way from the director. And today we get some more news regarding his next film, Resident Evil, I believe. And so I wanted to read into that and then break that down. Zach Cregger earning $20 million to direct Resident Evil joins Scorsese, James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, and Tarantino. While Brady Corbett continues to claim that he's broke, and that's despite directing The Brutalist, a 3-time Oscar-winning film, there's the other end of the spectrum. Right there, already in this article, they're already mocking Brady Corbett, as they clearly tell you here that The Brutalist has won 3 Oscars, right? And I'm not saying The Brutalist is the best film ever. I still need to watch The Brutalist. That's the film that stars Adrian Brody as the Brutalist architect, and this guy won 3 Oscars for this, right? Brady Corbett, that is. And even he is complaining about paychecks that he's getting at this point in time. You have to remember, Zach Cregger only has 2 films, Barbarian and Weapons, and not really much of a history before that, to be quite honest. And so that's 2 films that I wouldn't even say are acclaimed overall. I'd say for the most part, they're looked at as average films. Weapons is seeming to get a lot of hype now, but the Barbarian film didn't get that much hype when it did release. I liked the film more than Weapons, but it wasn't a film where you're like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. It is an original idea, but it's not groundbreaking in any sense of the word. And now we get to Weapons, where seemingly he's getting $20 million paychecks to do Resident Evil reboot films. That's an IP that's been around for quite some time. And so nothing new there. And like I said, it's not that awards mean everything at this point in time, but Zach Cregger, in my opinion, only has 2 films that are looked at as okay films and doesn't really have the filmography to even get a check like that just after the success of Weapons, and he got paid 10 for that. But let's continue. For a director breaking into Hollywood's $20 million club, it's extremely rare. Now, $20 million club, that's something that people need to reference on their own. Yash Karat talks about that quite heavily. I know a lot about that. I'm not really going to go into that on YouTube so much because YouTube is extremely sensitive, but the $20 million club is an exclusive club, follows a lot of fame once you enter that club, typically has to deal with some stuff behind the scenes that gets you access to that exclusive club. There's only a handful of filmmakers who command an upfront payday so large that the check alone could bankroll 3 Sundance darlings. Once again, they're telling you in your face, not a lot of people are able to do this. Remember, this guy has 2 films. Peter Jackson, who actually shot The Lord of the Rings and King Kong, these are, you could argue, not King Kong, but Lord of the Rings, billion-dollar franchise right there, right? They're still doing product around Lord of the Rings because that IP is so important, but really important not only because of Tolkien, but Peter Jackson's adaptation with those 3 films that he had. But let's continue. He set the modern benchmark back in 2005 with King Kong. $20 million up front plus a ridiculous 20% of the gross. Christopher Nolan and Ridley Scott have kept the tradition alive in recent years. Martin Scorsese walked away with $20 million from Netflix for The Irishman. Ryan Johnson obliterated the ceiling with a reported $100 million for his 2 Knives Out sequels. James Cameron, $30 million up front for Avatar, The Way of Water. Once again, these are guys with big filmographies and a reason to be getting these checks at this point in time. These aren't people with 2 films. Right? Quentin Tarantino banked $20 million from Sony for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Okay, that film came out about 5-6 years ago. Quentin Tarantino had been around for at least 25 years before that. Once again, filmography to demand such a check. Zach Cregger doesn't have it. I'm just being honest. Now add Zach Cregger to that list. According to the THR, the Barbarian and Weapons filmmakers to collect a $20 million paycheck to direct a Resident Evil reboot for Sony's Columbia Pictures, an almost unthinkable figure for a director on his 3rd feature. Oh, 3rd feature. Look into the number 3, ladies and gents. Just do that. The kicker, Sony locked Cregger in for that sum back in January of 2025, more than 7 months before Weapons even hit theaters. So all this is set up, right? Nothing happens for no reason at this point in time, and nothing is a coincidence. It's all set up. This happened before Weapons even came out. which means either the studio saw a rough cut and immediately opened the vault, or they decided after Barbarian alone that he was the real deal. Yeah, like the writer of the article just doesn't understand. He's pointing out all these anomalies and not actually looking at the facts because he doesn't know what to look at. At this level, a studio isn't just buying a movie. They're buying the marketing pool of the director's name. And after all that critical and commercial success of that film Weapons that just released, you can bet Sony will plaster from Zach Cregger across every Resident Evil trailer, teaser, and bus ad. Then he finishes up with Scorsese, Tarantino, Cameron, Nolan, ellipses, Cregger, question mark. Exactly my point. All the signs are there, ladies and gents. As I referenced in my Weapons breakdown and review, I spoke on how his close friend, very close friend, died in a weird, mysterious way, in my opinion. And I've seen this pattern before where someone just falls off of a balcony and they attribute it to intoxication. Like I said, a very lazy explanation. People don't just fall off balconies because they had a couple drinks. It's a little weird, and now Zach Cregger gets all this newfound fame, and he only has 2 movies, and then what do you know? On the 3rd movie, he's going to get the $20 million check and enter the $20 million club. When opens Weapons up, I talked about this. They marketed the film in all red. The film opens up, Weapons in all blue with the triangle inside of the O. None of this makes sense. If you understand symbols, you understand what's going on with that. Zach Cregger, he's definitely a weird guy. He's into some weird stuff. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but we're going to keep an eye on him because it's some odd stuff going on. But as I said earlier, I'm trying to keep it clean for YouTube, not trying to get the YouTube people trying to take down videos or anything like that. They've already tried to hit me with a copyright strike for some frivolous reason, which doesn't make any sense, but I'm working on that behind the scenes, ladies and gents. So I appreciate if you watch this video. If you feel the need to comment down on it. I'm here to hear some thoughts from people. Maybe some people know about this type of stuff. Maybe some people don't. Maybe this is going to be something that's new for you. So I want to hear your thoughts on it.